Question is, could this be the one, Kelly? Could this be the one?
You know, it's interesting going from Pollo's trio to Kanata's trio, because I feel like they're kind of two sides of the same coin. Kanata, Rap, and Bolts looked borderline catatonic when they first teamed up during the Div Cups and the Eval Cups. But since taking that first win from Group 3, they have just had a completely tonal shift. This is the Kanata, the very passionate individual that we know of him. And I don't know if it's like a Sailor Moon transformation. Once he puts the do-rag on, he gets all these powers. But they honestly look like they could easily be one of the top 3, if not second or first place team.
I mean, ever since like kind of like the turning of the do-rag, I guess you could call it, right? They've just been performing so well. Even that performance eval that happened in between last weekend and this weekend, there was only really 2 big name teams that kind of showed up and got a win during that. That, of course, was Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual. And then, hey, Kanata, Rapid, and Bolts also picking up a win there. So between last weekend, throughout the week, they look really good.
Okay. Now, that's good. That's good. So obviously, we have to dedicate some amount of the show, right, to talking about Peterbot.
We do.
Ritual and Cold, because just how dominant they've been as a trio. And I feel like a good way to do this is kind of talking about Storm Surge, right? Like a lot of trios, they tend to suffer with Storm Surge, and at times can be difficult to manage. But these guys are kind of like Storm Surge who?
Yeah, exactly right. They kind of just like skip that whole point of the game. Let's go ahead and take a look at what it actually required in terms of damage needed throughout the group stages, looking at averages for that, right? So, you know, end of zone 5, 850, end of zone 7, zone 9, 1800. Kind of keep those numbers in mind, because the thing that I want to talk about the most when it comes to Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual is how fast they actually deal with some of those numbers. We actually saw them take a early 3v3 fight. Now, of course, some of the best players on your team, you're gonna want to fight other teams because you know that you're going to be able to pretty much just roll them over. Now, of course, Peterbot does get knocked, but you got Cold on your team to kind of come in, clean that up, and a 3v3 like this is just going to net them so much damage, Kelly.
Yeah, and it just showcases, too, that even with Peterbot down, Cold regularly during, you know, the Kitch analytic posts, he has a higher damage, a better damage ratio than Peterbot himself. So even when your top fragger goes down, it's not just the Peterbot show. All 3 of them, including Ritual, can clearly get elimination after elimination to handle those Storm Surges.
Yes, let's go ahead and take a look at that damage done, right? Like, how much did that fight actually do for them? By zone 2, so pretty much, I mean, they've only kind of done one thing at this point in the game. That's that 3v3. 1,200 damage done. And if you remember that number that I showed just before, the amount of damage you needed was 850 at the end of zone 5. They are zones ahead of that threshold, right? And if they're actually zones ahead of that threshold, Kelly, well then guess what? They don't need to worry about it at all.
Yeah, I mean, being able to kind of, the mid-game, it seems to be a struggle for a lot of our teams, especially when they have to deal with Storm Surge, they have to tower up. But when you already have the damage done, you can kind of focus on the end game.
Yeah, focusing on the end game is really, really important. You actually set yourself up for end game in the early game, which is kind of what they do here. And, you know, because of all that damage done, guess what? They're like, well, we have all the damage done. And usually to do damage, you need to be by players. But we don't need to be by players. So why don't we go ahead all the way over to the west side of the map where nobody's going to be and make one of those classic dead side rotates that we, of course, love to talk about. This is super, super cool in trios, right? Because it saves them so many materials. When you think about trios, you've got 3 people on a team that can pretty much beam you at any point in time, which means that you kind of need to preemptively build. You usually spend a lot of builds, right? Staying away from a lot of trios. As you can see here, northeast side of the map as well. Very, very congested. They're on the complete opposite side. They know that. They played Fortnite for a very long time. But look how healthy they are, kind of just sitting over isolated. 150, 150, 150, like 15 masks on each one. They haven't used anything so far throughout this game because they do not need to go near any other players because of how early they got all that damage in.
And also, if they do use their masks, they can just go back to flooded frogs because no one's willing to touch them. And there's so many elemental chests over there that they're bound to find another.
Yeah, I mean, they're just set up so well. Not only, you know, all the confidence that they have themselves, but how much respect they get from other players. Let's go ahead and take a look at what they actually looked like then when they took the high ground. Because like I said, they're setting themselves up to take this high ground early on by taking that 3v3. That early 3v3 allowed them to kind of stay isolated, stay very, very healthy in the materials. And when they took high ground in this game, 80 builds, 86 builds, 51 builds on Cold. Still some Void Max charges left to kind of make some plays, kind of TP across some of those high ground layers. This just set them up so well because like I've mentioned multiple times, right? High ground taking it early on like they just did, it's hard to sustain that with the amount of materials you usually have. But when you're going into endgame with 150 on each one of your players, you're going to have enough to hold it for the rest of the game, just like Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual did in that one.
And it doesn't matter at that point if someone else is on the high ground because they will either find a way to absolutely decimate the low ground or take high ground for themselves.
Okay, so, right, these guys are really, really good, right? But let's kind of quantify that with the data we have now, right? So they did really, like, unbelievably well in Group 1, right? But there's two other groups that we're missing. There's all of these other trios that we're missing in this equation, and now all of those trios are coming together on one bus. Can they look to do what they did in Group 1 in a Major 1 Finals? The setting is completely different.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the question, right? It's always like when everybody kind of points to it, it's like, oh, well, yeah, they did well here, but hey, listen, this is FNC's finals. It's going to be completely different. And I feel like sometimes we kind of try to say that, right? And then Peterbot, Cold, Rich, I mean, look at the caliber of players that we're looking at right there. They're going to be able to do it. I guess like maybe the hardest thing would be to justify the 3v3, them being able to like kind of like roll the team just strictly over in a finals lobby. But Kelly, we know how good they are. I think they're still going to be able to do it.
And I just want to reiterate again, it's all three of them that are absolutely the top of their class. Both Cold and Peterbot, easily the two best fraggers in the entire region, if not the world. And then Ritual, who is an incredible tarper, an incredible IGL. He is able to set them up for success time and time again in these games. We saw how well he's done on LAN. We've seen how well Peterbot has done on LAN. You know, Cold now going for the three-peat of winning Major 1. Everything is being set up for their story this weekend.
Whew, okay, I like that. This is quite the pedestal they've kind of put themselves on. We didn't do this. They did that themselves. As we continue the conversation, though, let's take a step back and meet up with our casters. Give them a big warm welcome. It is Jacob ER and Monster D-Face.
Thank you, Zeke. And yes, there's so much to talk about. Finals is here, Jacob. Finally now, everything we've been working for all these weeks, we get to see unfold.
Yeah, 5 months since we last crowned our FNCS champion. And these contested drops is going to be really, really grueling for teams. But I think even a minute said it, contesting, sometimes it could be a blessing with how much surge you're able to get out of the gates.
Yeah, so to really set the stage, couple teams we're going to be looking at for early game fights, potentially. Noah W plays versus Oliver OG down at the bottom right of the map here. This is at the Hopeful Heights. And another team I really want to talk about, Jacob, Skittles and G Money. They're going to be clashing, going head to head. We all know Victor V. We've grown to love him, especially in the last year. But G Money has had a great uprise as well.
Yeah, over at Magic Monsters towards the north side of the map, those are two aggressive teams, and they have a ton of experience collectively to battle it out. I don't think that's going to be an easy drop for either one of those teams to really come out on top. But Monster, there's 12 games. You just have to figure out a way to win the majority, maybe 8 of those off-spawn fights.
Yeah, we're going to have to see how it's going to work out. There's a couple of battles going down. We're excited for what's going to unfold here at the finals. But of course, we got Zeke to take us through the rest.
Thank you guys so much. We'll be back with you shortly. First, okay, so we kind of talked about Peterbot, right? Okay. And we framed them as this powerful trio. We kind of gave you stats and breakdowns, but like, who could dethrone them? We feel like it's Vidal, Sphinx, and Cooper, right? And we kind of want to set this up in like a similar data-driven point, right? So, Viv, you kind of walked us through the Storm Surge and how Peterbot and his trio were kind of looking. Maybe do the same with Vidal. Like, what are we looking at here?
I mean, every trio is going to be different, of course. Cooper, Vidal, and Sphinx are obviously going to approach the game a little bit different than Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual are. And I feel like we can kind of hit home on that very, very early on in the game, right? Just we talked about, oh, listen, Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual, they're going to go for some early elims. And Cooper, Vidal, and Sphinx, as you can see here, by the damage done numbers, they're kind of not, right? I mean, by zone 2, 291 damage. By zone 5, 951, right? They, of course, have their points in their game where they get a lot of damage out, but it's definitely not in the early game. And I feel like it's really easy to kind of see how well Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual establish their Storm Surge damage. If we just go ahead and strictly compare probably the two best trios on the region and see what that damage kind of looks like. And Kelly, it is quite the difference.
Yeah, you can see just a little bit of a difference there by zone 2, but as the zones go on, they definitely do pick it up. And I do want to add also that in the early games, Sphinx, Vidal, and Cooper haven't had too many contesting trios around them, but during this weekend, as long as if no one changes their drop spots, they actually have 3 separate contested POIs around them, which might give them a little bit more Storm Surge by zone 2.
Yeah, definitely some opportunities to kind of switch it up there. And, you know, like we mentioned before, Peterbot, Cold, and Rich were kind of isolating themselves on some of those dead side rotates. They're not going to be getting much damage dealt there. So, you know, by those later zones, Cooper, Vidal, and Sphinx, they're, of course, going to catch up. It's just going to be a different approach to the game. Of course, if Cooper, Vidal, and Sphinx aren't getting a lot of early damage like Peterbot, Cold, and Rich are, they're going to need to keep themselves kind of involved with the rest of the lobby. They're going to need to see players on their screen if they're going to be able to actually deal that damage. So they're going to play completely differently. And I think that's awesome when we take a look at the personalities amongst these trios. So let's go take a look at where Cooper, Vidal, and Sphinx typically kind of place themselves amongst the rest of the lobby. As you can see here, they're kind of on that east side of the zone. And if you remember from the same game earlier, that northeast side, extremely congested. Cooper, Vidal, and Sphinx, they know that that's going to happen. So they're going to place themselves very nearby. And yeah, Kelly, I mean, they're still in a good spot, but all of these builds, they're going to need to use a lot of these, right? Because they're amongst the lobby.
Oh, man. Also, the group stages that they played, I swear every zone was a mountain zone and having to deal with that. But even with the, rough situation that they were put into, they got second place against Peterbot's trio. So regardless of if they have that early engagement or not, they're still always able to turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, they do an incredible job kind of managing all of this stuff here. Now, of course, the difference is in the play styles, right? Like I mentioned, since Cooper, Vidal, and Sphinx, they're going to be putting themselves in the rest of the lobby, right? In that mix, they're going to have to spend more of those builds. So, of course, they're going to have to end up with refreshes at some point in the game, which is what I really like about this trio. They always kind of find a way to find those refreshes. But something that kind of works for them the best, it's of course going to be that front side low ground of those moving zones. And shout out to Sphinx, he does such a good job of putting them in good positions. But as you can see here, Vidal, Sphinx, and Cooper ahead of the rest of the lobby on this moving zone. And this works so well for them because, again, kind of the point here being, they're going to have less builds than a team like Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual. They have to spend builds because they're constantly throughout the early, middle of the game, or next to the rest of the lobby. They got to block off all that damage. So when they get to these types of positions, Kelly, they got to get the eliminations. They got to get the refreshes, and that's exactly what they do.
Yeah, like you're saying, sticking to the front low zone is so smart, especially when they know that there's going to be players dropping down to them. They're able to just clean it up, shooting fish in a barrel right there. And it's all 3 of them that are really just taking control. Even though Sphinx is doing a majority of the tarping, he's also able to get some eliminations himself.
Yeah, he does such a good job right there. And I kind of like to coin this as like a momentum-based play style because it's like, well, if they don't get any of those eliminations, then they're probably going to end up going down shortly after. So there is a lot of importance on putting themselves in good positions. And Kelly was kind of talking about it right there. How are they getting into those good positions? And honestly, a lot of that heavy lifting is going to be done by Sphinx. I couldn't actually believe the numbers when I went ahead and took a look at it because I was like watching their games and I was like, wait, Sphinx is kind of tarping a lot for this trio. And as you can see here, in terms of placing the builds for the trio, Sphinx himself places almost 50% of all the builds that this trio places, just at 46% right there. So very obviously getting handed a lot of those materials that they are getting from those refreshes and using them to tarp themselves into good positions to get more eliminations, that momentum-based play style.
That is so crazy. And we even heard during the interview with Cooper that him and Sphinx were kind of arguing on who's going to be the IGL. I'm for certain that Cooper is feeling good about the choice of Sphinx taking that role now.
I love it. Okay. It's them, right? They'll be the ones to stop. Okay, we don't actually know. We're moments away from game number 1. Wow. So let's just talk about expectations. It's here. We'll have 6 games today. And something to note is we don't have that 1.5 times multiplier tomorrow, right? That has been removed. So day 1 has to be big. We really have to put on and set ourselves up good for day number 2. So what do you guys think? What are you expecting to see?
I hope to see it be a close game, especially after today. But we know how dominant Peterbot, Cold, Ritual have been in these finals lobbies, and with eliminations going from 3 to 4 points, it's kind of just setting themselves up even more. But it's Fortnite, it's the FNCS. Truly anything can happen.
I feel like the sentiment from a lot of people that are going to be watching the games this week, and they're like, yeah, listen, we want a close game. We hope that Peterbot, Golden Ritual don't run away with it. And I don't know about you guys, but last year when I was watching Fortnite competitive and Peterbot and Poyo were running through the competition, I was entertained. I'm down to be entertained again by a dominant performance out of Peterbot, Golden Ritual. Let's see the best of what they got.
And, you know, honestly, that's fine. If they go out and they win and it's another 1,000-point victory, like, honestly, I'm fine with that because there's 2 spots going to globals, right? So even if they take up one of those spots, there's still a second spot we are still fighting for. So we'll see. It is that time. Prepare yourselves. 6 matches today. Game number 1 is ready. So, casters, take it away.
Thank you, Zeke. It's one thing to be a professional commentator. It's another to be a fan and get to watch this in the front row seats, Jacob. I'm excited for finals. It's going to go down, and we know we're going to have a great competition.
No, it's definitely going to be amazing because we ever get to see a dominant performance by Peterbot, or we get to see one of many trios really take that shine, take the throne, and upset everybody that's thinking that he's going to take that first place spot. And Monster, I think this season, there are actually quite a few duos that can actually do it.
Yep, well, the battle bus sounds like it's ready. Let's jump on in for game number 1. All right, Jacob, the major finals is here. I'm ready for some action. Our trios will be taking to the world here shortly. We talked about teams that will be getting into early game battles. Apparently, there's word of some surprise contestations happening early on as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. Let's see if everyone's all talk or if they're going to back it up.
Yeah, the drop mat was almost just like a placeholder. Things can change in the blink of an eye when players don't feel as comfortable. But we look at our team international, Yapko, Muzz, and Rise. Not too many changes going on around them. They get their drop spot uncontested, and they have a lot of
Playtime's over. Ready.
They have their materials, their loot, and if they don't like what they have in terms of heals, they can always fix it.
Yeah. Who got it? Who won it? On me. Time for this old dog to show you a few tricks. Prepare.
That much territory, but here's the fight that I'm most interested in today, how things are going to perform here. You really have to give super credit to Noah W Plays, DC, and Chaos Gaming. They played a phenomenal qualifier, just kind of leading into it, really shining in the fourth point to making end games. And then you have Oliver OG. He's only gotten better over the years, slowly, really working hard, and have earned himself a spot amongst the best. This will be a very interesting clash because, as you know, most teams that get contested don't perform well overall.
Yeah, and it looks like they're just taking a slower approach. And I like how you mentioned their top spots and consistency. In Group 3, this was first and second place on that consistency leaderboard, earning their spot here. And they're taking a much slower, more strategic approach to the overall off-spawn fight. In fact, it looks like Oliver OG, Skater, and Dash are able to keep hopeful heights for themselves and kind of push Noah, DC, and Chaos off towards the outskirts, which isn't too bad for Noah and his trio because there is a lot of loot that you can still gather for out there. So it's not a done deal just yet.
Yeah, I was going to say there are benefits of having the outskirts, especially if a team was contemplating smashing on South and trying to get a little third party going. But over at the Canyon Crossing, it does seem like this fight might be looking to break out. A little different here for 20, Void, and Broken, who, of course, kind of inched their way on in. It seems like Power Police and Listen, they'll have a bit of a better, I would say, standing so far, given that they have a lot more shields working. But again, this is the finals lobby. Notice how slow things are going right now, right? Everyone kind of pacing themselves here, just really looking to get situated before they make a move.
Yeah, I could just kind of feel the energy right now, Monster. I know we're kind of at home, but if we were in a stadium, I could feel the crowd erupt just for watching and being able to see this team right here. This is a chance for Peterbot to really recreate history, and for Cold as well. He has 2 years worth of Major 1 victories along with his former duo Acorn, and this is his chance to go 3 straight years, Monster, while winning Major 1, and that's something I feel like very few players, individual, can say they can achieve.
And to put it into perspective, when you think of Peterbot's dominant reign, the fact that Cold was able to have the entire community still keep him in discussion and not just look at Peterbot as the one-man army, right, running things on NA, really puts things into perspective of how good Cold really is. Here's another team that is actually looking to do big things here today, Rapid Bolts and Canada. We really didn't highlight too much, I should say, coming into things, how Canada was kind of thrown into this team, right? Yep. Originally, this was not his first choice, but he has ended up here, and so far he has managed to make things work.
Yeah, and there was a big question mark over the dedication of Bolts and Rapid for quite some time. Are they going to focus on getting this win? They have a lot of other things going on in their life, and I think when Canada came over, yeah, there might have been a little bit of a speed bump, but since then, they've been their metal to the metal and just taking off, and you've seen Midges, Visuals, and Braids rotating over towards Floxy Floodgate. This isn't the contested fight we thought we were going to see, but a couple of weeks ago, Monster, this was a contested fight on the drop map. Bucky, Ocus, and Craze versus Visuals, Braid, and Aminish. I don't know what caused them to switch up their drop spot over to the Rainbow Fields, but you can see it's already working out for them, and they're returning back to the spot because this mountain towards Floxy Floodgates is one of the best mountains you can get because it's close to the center of the zone, and no matter where the zone pulls, you got perfect rotation for it.
Yeah, and already they're kind of winning the drop here, but look at this. A huge clash going down right now. Zeus already in the scramble here. Team's extremely hurt. However, they have the advantage given that they got a couple of eliminations so far. Can they get the full finish here to have Siphon kick in is the real question, as the other teams are now looking to collapse in. It does seem like they get just that.
Yeah, this was that crowd in Magic Moss's fight. It's the teams towards the outskirts moving their way in, but you see in the outside, Chimp, Skittles, Victor V, they're closing in. This one's getting a little bit messy. And Possess, Ralphie, Diego plays a team that qualified through the groups out of consistency while being surprise contested as well. So this is a situation I feel like they're all too familiar with.
Very interesting that all of these northern teams have decided to collapse just here by the pump power. If you look at the drop map, these teams have their own mini battles happening, and it seems like their strategy was to rotate into one another, but instead it caused a huge combination of a fight going down right now. You can see Victor V's trio just lurking on the outskirts right now, trying to see where they can kind of get in on this battle as everyone's sort of slowing down, looking to really recover here, if you want to call it that. But still, very limited information, I would say, for Victor V and the rest of his trio as far as how many teams truly are here. I don't think they really realize.
Yeah, there's about 3 teams directly in that position, maybe even a 4th scattered around, and then they would be the 5th. And I like how slow they're actually taking this approach because now they're giving themselves so many options. They're not directly in the fight. They don't have to worry about a team just churning it on and kind of trying to burn them down in a couple of split seconds. So they can kind of position themselves, farm up, wait for the action to break out, and then finally make their move. They're not kind of forcing their hand here. And you got to imagine that's got to be the experience that we've seen at particularly Chimp and Skittles with the amount of finals appearance they have, and then Victor V continuously learning and growing from all his teammates.
Well, one thing's for certain, the more early game clashes that go down like this without eliminations, the surge damage threshold will begin to rise very quickly. This can cause cascading problems for the rest of the lobby. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, Cooper, Vidino, and Sphinx right now looking to base up amongst one another. They've rotated somewhat into Oliver OG's team, who came straight out of the Hopeful Heights. And so far, nothing big has come out of this. However, they have wasted a fair amount of material, couple of Void Oni masks. So you can see that Cooper, Vidino, and Sphinx might have been caught off guard here.
Yeah, and you can kind of see what Vivid was talking about, a slower approach to their game plan in terms of collecting the surge. They want to make sure that every rotation that they make, they're not getting caught off guard by a lot of these teams, even if that means letting one of these teams overtake them on that rotation. But with the zone slowly but surely starting to begin to close in, they're going to have to make their way forward. And since they realize every single team that's currently positioned around them, they're feeling comfortable just taking their time, going step by step. You see, they're not just trying to beeline it to the zone itself.
Nice shots there by Ronan Dash as they start to back out. Another team rotating from the outskirts. Curly from the pump power as well, playing nice and steadily. Meanwhile, we get a little update here for Booga of Even Threats now. Seems like they're collapsing in on a third party onto a team that was fighting here. Oh, Shots giving them the details. So they know something's going on down low. Little did they know the fight's already finished. Breed's Visuals and Minish come out on top.
Yeah, basically kind of taking down 2 members of Bucky, Ocus, and Craze. And they're just kind of waiting right above them. And it's just a very, very hard situation for Bugha of even threats. They can't necessarily drop down there and try to go on the offensive because they don't know. There's so many nooks and crannies where those players can hide down below. So they're just waiting for that moment. They heard the fight finish. Hopefully they come back up the zip line, and that's where they're going to try to strike. But as time continues to pass, they got to realize that its timing is wasted right now just waiting for that team. So they're just kind of positioning themselves on this mountain that I talked about early on in the game.
What a huge awareness check for them to know, wait, we can't just give away our tower. And the call was correct. You have Curly and crew inching their way up right now, getting ever so closely. Sonetto, Scare, Veer, a huge team to come out of the qualification. I believe it was week 2. They played so well, consistent, and just kind of appeared on our radars out of nowhere as a team to look out for. They've only gotten better as the months have gone by. Right now, they're going up against the vets of Edgy, Bila, and Quanti, who have come in on the skin of their teeth. How do we think this is going to shake up?
Now, I think it's going to be a big shakeup here for a lot of these teams because this is one of those rotations that you kind of saw and Vivid talk about Peterbot going south. Both of these teams are kind of meeting in the middle. One went south, one went north. They're trying to take a slow approach, and they really get caught off guard by this exchange. You see an empty slot on Sonetto, materials being missed. This isn't one situation they want to be in, but whoever wins this trio will have a huge refresh and really give themselves surge and positioning to the zone.
Well, they've been thinking very similarly for their rotates as they've kind of found themselves collapsed here on the outskirts inside the storm. Plenty to work with Scare, Sonetto, and Veer's loadout here as far as sustainability is concerned. And I like how they're playing these side angles. Scare's got the perfect angle right now to really put the pressure up onto Quanti and Edgy right here from the low ground. They have to be careful. There it is. They're going to go in and get with one another, make sure they cap off their HP, keep their shields nice and up for the battle, and there goes the three-way split once again, all looking for separate angles right now. It's exactly how you want to kind of keep control of a three-way fight.
Yeah, just continue, just kind of suffocate them, sandwich them little by little, take away their options, their space. And you see Sonetto trying to back up the heel, but the pressure is on, the break into the box, and they take him down. He's going to be the first one dropped out of this fight, but Bila quick to follow, bringing it down to a 2v2. Quanti and Edgy trying to survive, and it looks like Quanti has no choice but to try to disengage. Edgy goes down as well, a mistake that will haunt them for the rest of game 1.
Scare, Veer, clutch it up, and although they lost Sonetto, they do find themselves 2 eliminations and plenty of damage here. Talk about a team that you have to put respect on, and I gotta say, I'm very impressed for them to have won that battle there. But the fight's not over. This is just game number 1 right here. Teams are going to be learning how the games are going to sort of unfold, where players have decided that they're going to make their strategies, their rotates, fish for surge. So we're going to see much more of that as the day continues. Meanwhile, Sphinx, Cooper, Vidil, what a bad situation they found themselves in. Continue to be slammed, almost sandwiched between many, many trios here. And the material count is looking very light. I like that they're trying to fish their way back into this game here. However, it is not looking good for this trio.
Yeah, it's almost one of those situations, Mons, where you know as the game continues, if they don't find any resources that are left behind because you know it's going to be all looted, they almost might be forced into a refresh situation, having to find elimination sooner or later. Possessed, Ralphie Diego plays as a team that we saw in an early skirmish. What was it, a 4 or 5 team scuffle at the top side of the map? They immediately made their way out towards the south side of the map. But I still think they're worrying just a little bit about Surge. There's 89 players still left up in this game. Surge is going to be one of the more disastrous things that happen to some teams that might not be prepared for it.
Yep, this is what we expect, though. This is how finals lobbies typically tend to shake up. A lot of players, especially come game 1 and 2, tend to stay alive. Surge does trigger relatively early and will cause a lot of chaos on the map here. Possessed, Ralphie Diego recognizing just that as well, so they're looking to force their hand here, get into a fight. I like that they're taking action now before the warnings start to get issued to the lobby here. This is definitely a sign of a team that is experienced in these types of settings. And it's Clix who's on the run right now. Meanwhile, looks like the islands just come up. Who's going to be the first to go for it? 2 teams are on the way up. Ritual, Peterbot, and Cold being one of them. DJ's trio there as well. and it seems like they're looking to take this fight immediately.
Yeah, and Havoc's already just getting beamed, trying to fly up in the sky. That's one of the things you have to really watch out for. The Void Orb can only take you so far. You're going to get caught gliding up, and a lot of that damage is going to be there. But for now, I think Ritual, Cold, Peterbot, they know another trio went up toward this mountain, so they're just not trying to lose focus, go for the boss, and trying to get beamed. So now that a third team's up there, it's just going to make it a little bit more risky for all three of the trios, not just Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual.
And notice with every island that gets occupied, so does the very prestigious material that comes with it. All that brick being taken straight into another team's hands here. Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual have to make a decision quickly now, as they haven't picked up any eliminations. And, you know, it's very telling so far of the strength of the lobby, right? We all knew that Peterbot might have taken a fight early on against the trio nearby, but it seems like that didn't end up working out in their favor. Meanwhile, Bolts, Rapid, and Kanata right now, only 230 damage above the threshold. It must be extremely high, given that we saw them kind of in an early game clash. And they're not content with this high ground spot. They want to get out of here. Too many teams are up top. It seems like they're going to be the first to go.
Yeah, and not only that, but from what we've seen throughout the group stages, we can even throw the play-in stages, watching a couple of these streams, this isn't the easiest place to get Surge for a lot of these teams, especially if you're down below. But Ritual, Peterbot, Cold, they did not take an early game fight, but they followed teams around to try to get their Surge early. They're 533 above that damage threshold, really setting the tone and the pace. And you see how passive they're playing. I feel like they're almost waiting for another one of those teams to either disengage off the island or start the boss. When the boss gets started, you know there's so much destruction and chaos to the builds. I feel like that's when they're going to try to make a move.
Definitely would be a prime opportunity to take a fight. Quanti, Edgy, and Byla, even though they got into that little skirmish, you can see that the pickup was good for Edgy and Byla. Quanti getting them back in the game. However, they are still below the Surge now. There are shots happening just on the edge of the zone here, so should see Quanti and team get a little bit active here shortly. However, I'm wondering, is that his team actually? Is he's the furthest behind right now? No, it's looks like Sinetto and Veer's trio battling on the edge. Here's Power, Polis, and Listen. They've again been contested, and still here's a team that didn't finish their fight either.
Looks like Okus might be back in the game. Trying to see if I see any of his teammates nearby, because it was, I believe, Bucky and Craze that went down very early on. Can he get the reboot? That's going to be the big question. Luckily for him, it's finally leaving away from Foxy Floodgate. From Power, Listen, and Polis, they're continuously falling further and further below the threshold. A big shot like that from Power is going to ease up a little bit of that pressure, but you can see it's not going to be enough. Still 140 below. Out come the splashes, the heals from the team, but they have to start getting proactive. They have to get this damage, otherwise they'll be left with nothing and no damage.
And what's crazy about that, they could have gotten the elimination onto Okus, but it looks like the Surge did that for them. So more damage lost because they couldn't find the chance, and it looks like Curly, Virgo, and Noxie's patience pays off here, as they were also under Surge pressure. But look at that. 3 eliminations come walking into their box. Now they have all the damage that they need, and they are very much in this game right now. Rapid, Bolts, Kanata, a bit split apart from one another, also fishing for damage right now, and you can see they are victims of the Surge as well. Very hurt trios starting to take place here. Still, they find themselves right on the edge.
It's almost like a blessing and a curse being one of the premier teams in the lobby, because we always talk about how much space they've been able to claim from the top of Demon Dojo on the mountains all the way down to Pumpin' Pipes, almost into the Shatter Span, Dropper Muzz, Rise of Yapko. That means they're not going to be able to get as much Surge. They're going to have to go on the hunt for it, and if things don't go their way, exactly this will happen. Below the threshold, on the hunt, trying to find some heals. The rest of the team still trying to find the shots that they need. Kanata finding an opportunity to backside the zone. That's Mason, that's Chance, that's Donnie, but they're still below. Even with opportunities like that, they still have to find more.
These shots Kanata are putting down are what we would call clutch shots right now. They're giving him the damage he needs, but the clock is ticking. Now, here's the problem. You have Bolts fishing up for heals right now, and then they're just trickling behind. Meanwhile, Clix, Iamzo, Batman, Booba getting active right now. Also below the Surge. They're going to find elimination. They need more damage. 20 walks into the box. They find him as well. And this is going to be the saving grace for this trio. They need the siphon to start ticking here. There it is. It's going to keep them alive and healthy now. Water sprites are down. And what a close one for Clix, Iamzo, and Batman Booga there. They were nearly sent back to the lobby, and what a refresher as well. So much material being picked up here.
Oh no, and we finally tuned back in. Bolts is now by himself. Kanata, Rapid both out. Finally finds his way up that damage threshold, but instantly back down below. 9, he gets ticked by 1, but it finally turns off, but immediately back on. That just goes to show how grueling and stacked this lobby is. I think from here to the rest of the game, it might not even shut off, so Bolts knows proactivity is going to be key. He has to continue to look the backside of these zones and take advantage of these teams that are fighting each other.
Wow, what a call. Boat says, you know what? I got to get closer. I need to get in the action right now. Otherwise, I am going to get sent right back to the lobby. And look, he finds a little bit of a refresher. That's going to be a moment for him here. Let's go ahead and have something to work with. Back to his base he goes. He wants to play the range game, but notice he put metal down. He's going to have to end up working through that. And instead, he starts looking towards the opposite direction here. But if Bolts doesn't find tags now, it's going to be all over here shortly in the coming moments.
Yeah, you can definitely just kind of put him on the clock. 145, that's about like 5 good shots with that hollow twister, but no one's really given an opportunity. Brick, metal, it's even hard to break through that to try to get what you need. On the other side of the map, you see in Storm Surge really dictating a lot of what we're seeing here today. Ritual goes down. Peterbot and Cold only 42 above that damage threshold.
Oh, no,
even with the Battalion, they're still not finding those opportunities to get what they need without risking it all.
It's Chimp who finds Ritual there. Victor V's trio set up and find a full elimination. Peterbot and Cold forced to actually back off here. And they're going to retreat all the way back up to the high ground. But no, a shortcoming there. Couldn't actually get to the island. So instead, they have to work their way around. Cold left solo now. Up he goes here. This is a full-on refresh back to the loop that they left behind here on the island. A very smart and tactical retreat here. However, they will have to play this out as a two-man team. Talk about, and you just never know what's going to happen on a final stage. If you could have told me that Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual will be in such a desperate situation come game 1, I'd say you were lying for sure.
For some reason, though, I don't even feel too worried. It's Peterbot, it's Cold, it's 2 of the most individually skilled players that we have in this game right now. I feel like if anybody can make it work as a duo, it is going to be them. But a team that qualified after getting a reboot in the group stages from 2nd place to 1st, Agers, Acorn, and Poyo, some of the most experienced team in the lobby in terms of FNCS championships. One of the things that we saw in that group stages was they were struggling a little bit when it came to Surge. That kind of dictated and forced their hand in certain situations. But it's great to see they learned from their mistakes. In Zone 7, they're 271 above that threshold.
And a team that's not too very far off. Sphinx, Cooper, and Vidil looking like they need to get absolutely active here. A full-on fight breaking out right now. Japco, Muzz, and Rise getting into the box of another trio there. Talk about chaos unfolding right now. And the feed starting to light up here to really reflect the danger in the lobby.
I'm seeing Mason go down, Curve, 2 different teams losing players, even Donnie. Sphinx, though, the IGL of the team, with 167 below the damage threshold, there's a lot of pressure for him to try to figure out what is the game plan, especially with one of the farthest pulls in the lobby. And now you add on the fact that it's active Surge. Cooper just got taken down because of it. Now it's up to him and Vidil, and by the looks of it, they do not have a lot of resources to heal this. 7 seconds left, 25 HP. He's looking to try to hold this spot, hold the line. 1 HP in a dream. Vidil has it as well. They're getting pressured from all around. Sphinx goes down. Vidil can only take 2 ticks, but now he's above the damage threshold. He just needs to figure out a way to survive, but out of materials, out of time, they go down.
I was going to say, very valiant effort. Sphinx to go for the trade, the tags there, to go ahead and give Vidil just a moment away from the Surge. However, it was just a matter of time before the rest of the lobby caught up. Fully healthy now. Peterbot, Cold jump up to the high ground here. This is I would say, an act of desperation right now to put up the flex. They don't really have the mats to hold this out. However, they're puffing their chest out, trying to look bigger than they really are here, and avoiding damage of the low ground. Clixiamzo, Batman, Booga. Here's my favorite team, I think, to take the weekend. Situated very, very comfortably here come this mid game right now, or actually I should say the end game, as we're starting to inch our way towards it. But Cold and Peterbot starting to get things back under control now from the high ground.
Yeah, this is usually the stage of the game where really everybody's kind of going through battles down below. They don't really have too much time to look up, and that's a blessing for Cold and Peterbot. As soon as a duo or trio sees it, they usually like to try to make a late game play, and you see a lot of their resources being split between the two because they don't have a lot left. And that's where you see him peeking through the cone. Clix is seeing that as a sign of weakness. We could see a potential Clix and Yamzo Batman Booga high ground retake.
Oh, what a play would that be? They're eyeing things up. They're trying to decide as they're the furthest team to rotate here. Plenty of charges left in a Void Oni mask as well. So they're not going to have a single problem rotating through the rest of this end game. Meanwhile, Cold and Peterbot only have 2 or 3 charges up top. So a much different story, but Clix, Yamzo, Batman Booga land themselves in a world of trouble here. Teams everywhere forced to go through their heavy mats now. The call comes to get up off the layer. Batman Booga is the last to jump up, but it seems like they have now gathered themselves a moment here. Jabco, Muzz, and Rizzo are running things on the low ground. They seem to have this fully under control at the moment.
Yeah, 36. It's not a huge feeling of confidence for Storm Surge, but they know at this stage of the game it's going to be more than enough. Agers, Acorn, Pollo, they find another elimination, and they move to the front side of zone, and you kind of notice they're staying away from that ultimate low ground. That's where the chaos, that's where the desperation comes in from a lot of those teams trying to scrape together any bit of placement points.
Crazy to think there was about 5 teams that were really the favorites to take the weekend away, and most of them are still in this game right now. Going to make for a very interesting game 1 here in the coming moments. Acorn, though, flying too close to the sun, gets the attention of the high ground teams. Meanwhile, the Yamzo gets a huge refresher here with Clix and Batman Booga. They are very much in this game as well, and notice they're not playing for low ground right now. They're looking to possibly go for high ground as well. And what a sleeper trio here. Threats and Booga still alive right now, working their low ground spot.
It was big clutches by Booga that kept him in it to get him to this stage, and now we're seeing another opportunity with Threats by his side. This is a duo that had so much experience through last year's FNCS with a big knock in the backside of zone. Agers, Pollo, and Acorn, though, looking like they will not be stopped at any opportunity in turn. They take down and bulldoze through every trio in front of them.
This is crazy. Big set of eliminations there. 7 for Agers and company. Meanwhile, somehow Peterbot and Cold still have high ground, but for how much longer? Clix has turned his attention up to the top here, and they're putting a little bit of pressure down. You can see it's just wood builds. They're completely out. Cold gets knocked down. Agers goes for high. Pollo and Acorn have it now, and they're building up, and it's fully secured here.
No one is going to be able to stop them from here on out. The zone's getting smaller. Peterbot by himself, 4 builds. He has the medallion. That's going to be the hope, but right behind him, that's going to be Clix, Batman Booga, Yamzo leading the way. He's trying to break into a tart, but he doesn't really have any options outside of the zone. The last of the splashes is his only chance to heal, to try to stay alive inside of the top 7. Almost find elimination onto it. Cryptid. If he can get this, he can. That siphon is keeping him alive.
Insane, and the fact that he just can't be seen here because the medallion keeps him invisible. Look at him go! And onto Rise's layer he goes as well. Look at him, just working his way up and down, sneaking, threatening everyone nearby. Another elimination, and Peterbot is starting to heat up.
And feeling a deja vu from the World Championship, he does it again. Yamzo goes down. This is why we call him one of the most dangerous players in the game. Clix narrowly escaped and almost getting taken down, but Peterbot's not done just yet. Shield getting cracked. He finds another one on the Clix. Can anybody stop him?
He is still going single-handedly, keeping his team in the game now, and just like that, a top 4 position. But let's turn our focus to who could win this game right now. Well, Agers, Acorn in control of the high ground, looking to work their way towards 10 eliminations. There's still 2 teams left. They're fully healthy. Jacob's going to get one, and Agers is the first to fall, but a trade happens, and it's all going down now, Jacob. It's up to Muzz here. Can he clutch it up?
That was only 2 of our 3 trios. Down below, they went through unnoticed. Down goes Muzz. Pollo's trying to drop down from above. Acorn's already there, taking a lot of damage. He's going to get dropped. Pollo by himself. Can he make the heroic play? He knows 2v1 weak. He's trying to take advantage for out and around. That's going to be a minute. Braids from down below. Visuals there as well. 3v1, but Pollo's not going to be stopped. Down goes a minute. 9 HP. Finally making it into the zone. He's trying to let the Storm do his work for the Siphon to come into play.
Very smart play right there. He's going to heal up. It's all up to visuals now. And it's going to come down to a single shot. Pollo does not miss. He connects when it matters, and he will win game number 1.
What did we just witness? I thought the clutches were over. First Donnie in the group stages, then 20 in the LCQ. Now Pollo on the biggest stage in the Major 1 finals, showing that this roster change for him was worth it.
What a game. And then for everyone to put all the focus on the other teams, you start to forget who Pollo really is, what he did all of last year. There's a reason his name has been amongst the conversation of the greats, the best on NA. Take a look at Acornagers and Pollo's highlight reel here come the end game. What a clash. What a game number one, as the stage was truly set for us here.
That was a good old classic situation of Peterbot popping off, and his former duo just said, anything you can do, I can do better. In the tightest of situations, 8 eliminations for him, 14 for the team. We know who's in first place, but see, Kelly, Vivid, what did you think of that madness?
Oh my God. That was game number. No.
Oh
no,
my.
No, a
gosh.
game that I thought, I really believed for like a moment, like one moment that like Peterbot was going to solo clutch that game. Like I really did for like one moment believe. And to have Pollo come out and win game number one is like crazy poetic. I mean, guys, 14 elimination victory royale in a setting where the best trios are on one bus. And I just watched that.
That is serendipity if I have ever seen it. To have Peterbot's incredible solo run be outplayed by his old duo mate Pollo, going one after another, having Agers go down on height. Pollo then a solo having to drop down for the 1v2. That's just game number one, Vivid.
We could probably, Zeke was like, we could probably talk about Peterbot, for the whole entire pre-show if we really wanted to. I feel like we could talk about this game for the rest of the show. There was so much to kind of break down, but it just came down to the clutches. I mean, that, of course, is going to steal the highlight. Pollo, what an incredible job. Jacob caught it. He knew he had to wait for the siphon, letting the Storm do the work there, finally letting that siphon come in, had the confidence to take the fight over. Wow. NA. Wow.
I am shocked. Okay, I am just, I don't even know. Okay, look, we're going to go to a break.
Yeah, we need one.
When we come back, we'll have collected ourselves. I will not have. And we'll talk about what happened in that last game. Stick with us. We'll be back right after this.
Who you be?
welcome back to the FNCS. I thought 3 minutes was going to be enough time.
It was.
I just cannot believe what a statement game we just watched from Pollo, Agers, and Acorn. 14 elimination victory royale, a solo clutch from Pollo. That is a clip for the ages. Oh my gosh. That was just game one, Kelly. That was just game one.
I don't think I can handle this. I don't think I can do 5 more games, but I'm going to have to. And I'm so excited. I'm so happy that this is what NA is bringing us. There has been so many doubters out there being like, oh, NA is going to be boring. Well, they've all shut up now, okay? From game one, here we have Pollo, Acorn, Agers with 121 points. And also in second place, Visual Braids and Diminish. We talked about them at the start of the show. A bit of underdogs in the competition. Getting second place in game one is definitely setting themselves up for success. But of course, Peterbot's insane solo run, Vivid, is what it caused them to get that third place spot.
I mean, yeah, we're obviously going to hone in on the Peterbot effect there at the very end. But I mean, first and foremost, the situation that this trio was put in, they were a duo. Peterbot and Cold were a duo. Had the confidence to actually go up to the higher ground, and they held that for the first 2 moving zones there, right? 9th, 10th, 11th. They were actually holding it. I think finally it was Clix's trio that maybe was like, is that a duo up there? And finally some teams started to kind of fly up and start to fight for that higher ground. And then Peterbot. I honestly, my jaw actually hurts right now because I haven't stopped smiling from watching this. And I don't know if that's ever happened since I've been an analyst on the show. Honestly, this was just insane. When you put something like this medallion in the game where you can do these solo plays, Peterbot is going to take full advantage of that. Every single shot hit right there. Every single moment. I mean, he was climbing on things. I didn't even know it was possible. I was like, oh my God, he can do that. Yeah, Peterbot is just insane.
I mean, especially if you put that medallion on him, right? Just running without any slowing down right there. And it literally had to be a trio to stop him. But when he saw all the stragglers, and that's really what they do well, is picking off player by player where they're kind of off by themselves. Just huge props. They are in third place right now, but that is just game number one. But just look at the big names we have on our leaderboard. Muzz, Yapko, Rise, right below them in fourth place. Clix, Batman, Booga, Yamzo in fifth place as well. I mean, all of these trios right here are just top competitors. But of course, we have to talk about Clix, Yamzo, Batman, Booga going from 200 below Storm to getting 3 eliminations and then 400 above. Being able to recover when you're in shambles is such a key element to success in Fortnite.
You know what, Kelly, I'm going to go ahead and run away with your point right there and say, heck, the conversation about Clix, Yamzo, and Batman Booga for a second. Storm Surge in general. I mean, we were jumping from some of our top name teams to the other one, to the other one, to the other one. They were all like below. And we're just sitting there, we're like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Game one, maybe we got some stuff to figure out here. But yeah, everybody seemingly struggling with Storm Surge right there, right? Like Cooper, Vidil, and Sphinx, probably the biggest ones that got kind of like hit by that for sure. But a crazy game number one from start to finish, including that Storm Surge. I mean, some of these teams, they got to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, that was just game number one, Vivid. You know, if that was game number 12, we'd be having a very different conversation.
True.
You know, but hey, it's fine. That was just game number one. Let's get 5 more games of that. Wow, we are amped, and we hope that you guys are as well. It is that time. Will game number 2 have that same energy? Will any of these have that same energy? I hope so, because that was wild. With that being said, though, find your seats on the bus. Game number 2 is ready, so casters, take it away.
I wholeheartedly agree. I hope the rest of today and tomorrow continues at this pace, because that was only game number 1. We saw Peterbot heroics, but we saw Pollo really show up and show out.
Yeah, man, I thought that after the break, you know, the highlights, the reactions from the community. Yeah, man, I thought I need more. The action is just incredible. And at this pace, I don't know if we're going to have a voice for tomorrow. Talk about a game number 1. That's just setting the stage now as we're jumping in for game number 2. And by the way, shout out to Faxity. I can hear his voice through Twitter here in my house. He was going crazy for the pop-off game. You can really just feel the energy going crazy right now.
Yeah, that energy is contagious, even popping up all the reaction streams on the side. But it's now time for game number 2. Will it be just as exciting? Let's find out. Monster, let's go ahead and talk about another team, though. It's easy to get excited about the Peterbots, the Poise, but Visuals, Braids, and Aminish. We talked about them being contested at that little rainbow field just above Hopeful Heights. Well, guess what? They not only destroyed that off-spawn fight rather quickly, they immediately rotated north with a zone. That is a recipe for success for them. If they can continue to replicate that, I'll have no worries for them for the rest of the day.
Yeah, and you know what? Just to kind of bring the conversation to Storm Surge, all of our teams that we thought would be coasting through this game number 1 into the mid game, into the end game, seem to have had some difficult problems maintaining the damage. But this is one of those things you cannot practice for. You can't prepare for. Real finals lobbies is just so different, right? Everyone slows down. Things really start to become harder, right, than any other type of time, even in the weeks leading up to it. So now more than ever, you have to hit your shots. You have to commit to these fights. I think game 1 showed us you can't just walk away from these battles. You need to finish them.
Yeah, and this is like 2 examples where they kind of disengaged on out, but it's changing up here early in game number 2. Chimp's already down, Skittles follows, and Victor V is no more. G-Money, Seek, and OSIT already claim Magic Moses as their own.
Huge set of eliminations right here. Magic Mosses had to get wrapped up quickly. Sid, G-Monster, and Seek now winning this fight is a huge start for them. They need the points here to go ahead and kind of catch back up, make up for lost time. For Skittles, Chimp, and Victor V, though, it's going to be a major setback for anyone else. But listen, Power in Polis right now here at the Canyon Crossing seem to continue to have problems right now against 20, Void, and Broken. And like I said, notice the difference between this game and the last. 10 players now, fully eliminated teams have recognized, okay, we're contested. We need to get these eliminations, get this damage, and move on with the game. So the dynamics now, Jacob, are going to be very different compared to game number 1.
Yeah, and I don't think it's so much just about the loot when they're splitting these drops, Monster, even though that is a good point, but it's exactly what you were talking about, the surge. The Storm Surge from game 1 was very, very telling. Even Vivid said a lot of our top-tier teams that you wouldn't guess be struggling on that Storm Surge were actually below and around that threshold itself. So I think off-spawn fights like this are become more and more impactful and actually getting the damage, finishing them early, so you actually give yourself a shot to play the rest of the game out with less worries.
And you know what? I called it in game number 1 when I saw teams kind of taking these extended fights, tagging one another. It's trios. The one thing that came to my mind is that first surge is going to be very, very high. That's what happened. That's what happens when you take fights and you kind of don't finish them. Players just heal and it keeps going. But enough of that. Braids, Visuals, and Minish are holding on to their top 3 position right now. Pretty much holding on for dear life here as they've already lost a man here. Visuals down in the box. Will they allow the team to get the pickup here is the real question. Swappy nearly picked up, but looks like Clix is the one playing defense right now, and they're not too happy about this. Aminish looks like he's calling for the disengage, but Braids is deep in it, and unfortunately they are going to have to give it up now.
Yeah, I think that return was just kind of get that reboot card back on out. Going to go ahead and use this van right here, but you saw that he threw the orb early on just in case they continue to get pushed. They can kind of make their way on out with ease, but just judging by the minimap, nobody really making their way on over. After a fight like that, in a drop spot like this, I think both of them kind of know we need resources, we need materials, we need loot in order to have a good game, whether we win this fight or not.
And look at this, Skater, Dash, and Oliver OG, where in game number 1, they allowed Chaos Gaming, Noah to back out, right? They're like, no, not this time, taking full advantage of the high ground here. And they're pushing in on DC Awesomer. Ronan Dash has got the Void Oni Mask right on top of his opponent here, but looks like Chaos Gaming might be the most out of position right now. He's going to go ahead and go for it here shortly. Skater's here to back him up as well. And this is going to be looking like a set of eliminations to be picked up here.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Chaos. 2v1. His teammates already abandoned him. It's almost a necessary evil to try to stay alive and keep the game intact. But now they're immediately trying to beeline, follow DC, not really let him out. And the thing is, DC's going to have to return back to this side of the map regardless in whoever he wants those reboot carts. And I think this is going to be a really interesting decision for Oliver, Skater, and Dash if they want to continue to follow this solo across the map. Because you know as well as I do, the longer contested off-spot and fights go, the riskier that third party is going to be. And already you see one team moving on over.
Team starting to slide in down to the hopeful heights here, and they're moving pretty quickly now. Dash trying to get out of there. They're going to have to fully dip now. Skater, one of the ones left behind, and that's just how quickly things can change here on the big stage. Not even the best loadout either, right? They're leaving behind so much of their drop spot here. This is going to be a very tough game for them to go ahead and try to find themselves situated, but the damage has been done. Meanwhile, amidst in visuals, from one bad situation to another, they find themselves at the Seaport City, and looks like Bugha and crew are welcoming this team here. They had a bit of a problem last game finding their activity in the early game, so this could be a boon for them.
Could be a blessing, could be a curse, but for now, I think for Oliver, Skater, chasing them so far out the map, getting separated. You see Oliver OG had no choice but to get separated from the rest of his team. You see in the minimap, the two solos just kind of scrambled around, and there goes that team that Visual and Braids originally contested, also moving on over in this direction. And you saw just kind of being dictated from game one. All these players realizing like, hey, we need to get our surge early. We need to make sure that we're at least above a certain threshold so that way we can focus on our rotations when that time comes.
I like what I'm watching right now with this little standoff here. Press, Clixy, and Drewbot really looking to commit right now. They're still safe for the time being on the Storm. Seem like they have this thing somewhat under control, but it's giving Tony, Creo, and Zeus a little too much time, it seems like, to go in and get situated. Meanwhile, another team starting to look in as well. Danger lurking ever so closely. Who could it be? Meanwhile, Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual in a completely different fight here at the Magic Mosses. They've rotated straight out of their drop and into another squad.
This is typically how they like to fight for their surge early on, get above that threshold. And it's kind of these prolonged fights where they land damage, the other team heals, and they just keep going at it. Got to be careful, though. The longer this one takes, that team towards the east side could potentially move in, but you take notice. Peterbot is kind of just forcing them into one angle. Cold is taking the tops of those builds, and as soon as they pressure him in a situation just like this, it's like taking candy from a baby. Two more players are going to drop. They're leaving Taram as a solo, who's also taking damage while he's trying to disengage.
Why did I pause it? Why did I just pause?
He is a 2 or 3 man army on his own, right? You can really leave him to his own devices and he'll go ahead and make sure things get done. And so can Cold. And look at this. All of a sudden now this team levels up. 3 eliminations, already off to a much better start comparatively than to game number 1. And they found the surge, the damage that they need. If their group stage is telling of what might come next, they should be setting themselves up for a big end game right now. Meanwhile, Clix, Batman, Bugha, and Yamzo can't say the same for them, right? They've had a relatively quiet start to their game. They're relatively maxed on material here, and now they need to start finding themselves into some types of situations to find damage.
You know, for their lobbies this season, I know you're kind of a fan of this team. I think everybody, rightfully so, they've got about a 23% win rate when it comes to set lobbies this season in finals. There's only one team higher than them. That's Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual at 28% as well. So as long as they can continue to stay above that Storm Surge threshold early on in the game, I think that's where they're going to continue to find that most success. It's when they don't have that surge, when they're running around the map separated and kind of forced into box fight situations, is where they're going to have their struggles.
Yeah, and a lot of teams find themselves in those spots, right? How do you figure out what is your weak point in your strategy? And really, there's very limited time to practice. You don't get to feel this type of simulation anywhere else other than finals. It really does become a reality check, I think, for most competitors. And unless you've been to many, many grand finals or final settings, then you just have no idea how much it really takes to find yourself in a good spot in a lobby like this. But for Japco, Rise, and Muzz, they have everything it takes to be a championship caliber trio. They're flexing it just right now. So far, they have the zone. They're right in between two spots. Their team's nicely spread across the kind of canvas here and seems to be working pretty well for them so far.
Yeah, and you got to take note. They land at the shattered span, so they immediately noticed the zone, rotated south, trying to hope that that congested south side of the map where a lot of teams are contesting are being where they can find the surge. And a team very, very similar, but without having to rotate is Vidil, Sphinx, and Cooper. Kind of a disaster happened in that last game. Just weren't able to control their storm surge. They were kind of stuck in a situation, using a lot of their heals and forced to fight. With the zone moving over this side of the map very, very early on, they know a lot of teams from the west, any teams that are remaining on the south, are going to have to rotate through their direction, and they're hoping that's how they're going to accumulate their surge.
Oh, look at this, though. Creo putting pressure right now. He's going to find the shield breaks onto Cold there. Peterbottom Ritual forced into playing offense on their own for a second now. Creo, though, has to be careful here. Looks like he's already done woken the bear now. Off they go, rotating out as they see the push come back. And again, this is still inside the Magic Mosses. One of the very interesting things that we talked about, Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual, is that they can afford to do whatever they want in their early game because teams are going to move really quickly away from them, right, for the most part. So they have complete, I would say, control of this terrain right now.
Yeah, and this is exactly what kind of Vivid was breaking down in the pregame. They got that early game fight, so you got to imagine where they're at in terms of the storm surge numbers, staying in the zone, rotating all the way towards the dead side to try to find an easy and smooth way in. And when they see these teams along the way, they're going to go ahead and pop some shots.
Oh,
wow. The first one down in a split second, and I don't think his team's going to have enough time to react. A G-Money and Ozid that's going to be left alive without Seek.
And you notice how quickly they threw those Void Oni masks. There wasn't a single ounce of hesitation in that trio. They got the knock and immediately shoot, shoot, shoot. They're all there. And you're down and the loot is theirs to keep now. And that's just going to give them more confidence to play dead side rotate, more confidence to go ahead and get in the center of the map here come the mid game.
It's a huge difference from game one. About 88, 89 people at this stage in the game. And I did see a knock from the Amzo in the feed, and you're seeing how it's getting cleaned up. Clix gets the elimination. Jojo is trying to get away. Aoxy gets caught out. That's basically a solo here. And you know as well as I do, only because they're in zone, they might not go for the chase. But if this was anywhere else, they would make sure to hunt down that solo.
Just watching these trios come together makes this FNCS feel so special right now. There's something in the air here. I am just enjoying every single minute of these clashes, these engagements right now. The top teams really putting it down right now, showing us why they are here, why they deserve to be in the finals, and honestly why they're amongst the best and the favorites, right, of the region here to perform well. Every single big name trio we've expected to perform well are doing just that, especially come game number 2 right now, where the experience really starts to take the lead.
From one fight to the next, you see that 4th elimination. They didn't get too greedy on trying to follow those other 2 players out, just trying to rotate with the zone. And this is almost nearby their old POI, Brutal Boxcars. They heard a reboot van in the distance, and I think they're just going to try to move their way on over, try to gather where all these other teams on the north side of the map are making their way in towards the zone, while it looks like Cold and Ritual are going to position themselves on the Brutal Boxcars mountain, so that way they can continue to accumulate surge in that regard as well.
Let's take a look here. A couple pop tags from Cold right now. Talk about activity when they really don't even need to continue to be this active, but it seems like game 1's a bit of a scare here for Cold, Peterbot, and Ritual. Making them think twice about their surge situation right now. They don't want to be in the same spot that they found themselves in game number 1.
For them, I think it's just wait a minute, see where zone goes, make a move from there. On the other side, though, I do believe they already got a knock onto one player. They see them rotating away in towards the north, taking the launch pad. You know they're going to use their mask, whatever they can do to close the distance as much as possible. It does look like Rise and Muzz are going to be the first ones on over towards the island, and this is where they have a chance to spot them in the water. And it's going to be Yapko that actually does spot out that solo first.
Still deciding if they're going to make a move for it. Void Oni mass charges being used up. Not sure how I feel about this overcommitment right now, but They're feeling pretty confident. The tag comes in. Rise almost caught out of position right there. Now has to wait for his team. Big Box comes out. Early splashes as well. Ooh, comes to Muzz's rescue there as he's got the couple splashes. The zone almost put them in a bad spot, but seems like things are going to settle now. Minish Visuals and Braids are saying, hey, you know what? Bring this action. We want it. Typhoon Blazer out. No connections just yet. Defense looking sound here for Muzz's trio, but Muzz in a bit of a scramble right now. Force a low ground and a knock happens. Braids is down and out. It's up to Visuals here to try to clutch it up. Minish already in a full-on fledged battle. Japko back against the wall as well as he continues to get forced into the storm.
Yeah, great repositioning by Yapko, knowing that they were kind of knocking on the door. He was weak. A lot of damage was dealt, but he's trying to reunite. And there goes Muzz, winning a huge fight yet again. And now they have the Kappa factory where they can instantly try to get that reboot back, get all that loot that they lost before trying to rotate to zone. But they got to be quick because it does look like it's pulling away.
No, you know what they say, no pain, no gain. That was a fight that was definitely risky, and now it pays off. And think about what they just did. They took down the second place team here, slowing down the momentum for Visuals and Braids. Diminished, sending them right back to the lobby and giving them space here. A little bit of runway, right, to start taking a lead.
Just where the zone just kind of pulling all the way towards the east. A little bit of the south. You think back, that might help Muzz, Rise, Yapko when they finally get that reboot off. But for Clix, Yamzo, Batman, Booga, they're almost 600 above the damage threshold. They're just trying to smoothly move their way in towards zone, find themselves a good spot. They're learning after each and every moment in these games, so that way they don't make that same mistake twice. There's Chance, Donnie, and Mason, 169 below the damage threshold. Even though they're right next to the zone, they know they need that Storm Surge now in this fifth zone before the game gets progressively harder for them with each and every following zone.
One of the best parts about game number one being so slow and then intense on the Storm Surge is we've had a nice trickle of consistent action for us here in game number two as our better teams have recognize their weak points in game one and fast adjustments being made here. But for Donnie, Chance, and Mason, they have that pressure of the surge here. It seems like enough wasn't done here, and it's going to be an all-out fight now. Mason looking to crash through the builds there. They find death on the side, but Donnie can't quite break in, and they lose a player for their troubles, and still no damage. So all of that set for nothing, and already Chance sent out. It's all up to Donnie. It's not looking good. This should be a quick set of eliminations here for him, but zone's already doing damage. The surge is already active.
That was tough. Or they thought there was the hope and chance. Almost deja vu for him winning the game. He got the first knock, just unfortunately with Storm Surge and a whole nother player walking him down. There's only so much one player can do. And you can see how active the lobby is getting now that Storm Surge is kind of dictating a lot of this flow. Some players above, but that doesn't mean they're same, because a team like Nut, who's down below the damage threshold, is immediately trying to progress and aggress onto them. Unfortunately enough, Possessed, Ralphie, Diego Plays going to be able to hold their ground, get that singular elimination before they rotate.
There goes the Void Oni mask. Look at where the zone's ending right now. It's bringing its way towards the Seaport City. Very heavy amount of player activity happening on that north side right now. Most of our teams that are desperate for Surge seem like they're going to be landing themselves right in the mix here shortly. Rafi, Possess, and Diego just got a little bit of time to work with here now before the zone closes and things start to get real desperate. Meanwhile, Clix, Yamto, and Batman Booga are one of the teams kind of lurking nearby. Possess, Rafi, and Diego have no idea.
Rotating north is just going to be hard, because even if they make it through all these buildings at Seaport City, they got to go across the mountain ranges where you already see 2, 3 teams positioned up. They're hoping if they move towards the right, they not only get a position in towards the zone, but a spot where they can look back, try to get some surge. It's Batman, Booga, Yamzo, and Clix to seem are a little bit busy, and that's their opportunity. They're trying to surprise attack. 61, Storm Surge is active as well. They got to hurry up because things are not looking good.
This is what happens when you don't find your early game fights. Things start to go downhill, and although they do have an elimination, you could just see that number, that threshold is steadily rising here. 140 damage, though, is definitely surmountable, but it's going to come at the hands or the expense of Clix, Yamzo, and Batman Booga. Let's see if they can defend themselves well. Of course they can. Into the trap door, he falls, and down one goes. Clix now forced to go and recover here shortly. Couple of teams starting to focus in on them, though. This could end pretty badly now.
Just got to try to hold on as long as possible. The Storm Surge do a lot of the dirty work. Diego plays possessed. Even without a teammate, they're still not finding the opportunities that they're looking for. 118 and counting, which means they're going to have to get more and more risky to try to find what they look. Possessed is going to go down. Storm Surge is going to take him out. Diego plays with only 15 damage needed, but it doesn't matter. Clix, Batman Booga, Yamzo strike back, get the eliminations, and help their own Surge game.
I was going to say, interestingly enough, they actually needed that fight. At some point or another, it seems like they started to fall behind. So it seems like sometimes you just need a little bit of luck on your side as things start to fall into your favor there. Now more than ever, though, Bolts, Rapid, and Kanata are pretty happy about this position they found themselves in. On the outskirts of the zone, no one really pressuring them here, and they've got full information being downloaded here on the rest of the lobby. And that's how you win a game right there. You start to really take in what is unfolding just like this, and all of a sudden you can find yourself in a great position. Meanwhile, Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual, no problem with the Surge this game. However, not the most prime position just yet.
Yeah, and you kind of see Storm Surge activate 7th zone. It needs to go down to about 42 players. That's 12 individuals that do need to fall, or 4 straight trios. So it's not going to be easy to try to survive this. But for Yamzo, Batman, Booga, and Clix, the early game scuffle is proving to be rewarding. They not only got Surge, but enough loot to kind of hold their position. But they see the zone pulls, and it's going to be one of the farthest pulls in the lobby. And immediately, so the IGL of the team scouting out where they need to avoid. And it looks like they're going to make a quick rotation out of all this mess and not be one of the last teams out.
Tough spot to be in right now, but they have to move now. Yamzo, Batman, Booga, Clix here, one of the first to go in and start rotating out. Very nicely done for them. They're going to be on the outskirts, but Deal, Sphinx, and Cooper have to get a move on as well. This is probably the worst we've seen them in so far. Only 128 above, a single elimination. They haven't really earned much this game. However, the pressure continuing to add up right now. And off they go. And they are still so very far from the safe zone. It's going to cost them a little bit more. Luckily, the sky is clear here for the Void Onimass rotate. Meanwhile, Cold, Ritual, and Peterbot on the move now as well. A little bit of a late rotate for them too, but Void Onimass, of course, making that no problem for them now.
Yeah, you can see, because they haven't had the most forgiving rotation this time around, coming in from the north all the way to the south. Material is not necessarily looking the best, but they're looking around to see if there's any potential refreshes that they could try to get. Muzz, Rise, Yapko, no, they're not in just yet. They quickly try to go ahead and one orb towards the top. This is where they're going to try to position themselves above some of these other teams, but not above Kanata, Rapid, and Bolts. They were quick to move from zone to zone, and now they're the kings on top of the castle for now.
And this is what happens when you pull the zone so perfectly like that, and they have the download of the rest of the lobby. I was literally setting the stage, and the zone couldn't have been better for them, but first we got to see what's going on here in Foyo's world. Agers and Acorn got some big pressure coming in here. Foyo looking for any kind of elimination right now, but nothing's going to come his way just yet. But it does seem like they find themselves a little bit of loot here, kind of falling into their box right now. Can't be upset at that.
Time was going to be on their side. They're in the front side of the zone, but so is Muzz, Rise, Yapko, and that's something that you really have to start to be careful for, at least cognizant of who's going to try to overtrack you. They're only 31 above the damage threshold, as Kanata, Rapid, and Bolt still holding on their position in the clouds. Ritual, Peterbot, Cold trying to claim the position in front of everybody else, zone after zone. It's still a little bit too early to know if anybody's going to try to take that high ground away.
Let's see it, though. Pressure coming in. Clix, Yamzo, Batman, Booga maintaining this kind of second height visual right now. No problem as far as their loadout's concerned. Things are seemingly starting to come together for them, but a refresh could be nice here. Meanwhile, Yamzo's starting to lead out. Matt's starting to run a bit lighter here for the front side tarp. Only wood left and remaining. Second height starts to get the pressure here. They're looking down. It's Cold. It's Ritual. It's Peterbot who's down below them. Meanwhile, High Ground does have two teams potentially looking to poise up. Clix and company go up for height, and Cold and company take the low ground.
They're just continuously trying to bulldoze their way through these teams. They know they don't necessarily need Storm Surge. It's just about materials and eliminations. As Kanata, Rapid, and Bolts continue to pour down pressure, Jack's going to go down. Cease is going to be left by himself. He has to make a big clutch happen, just like he did to get to this stage alone. But he's going to fall. The whole team's going to be ripped apart. Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual box to box against Acorn, Agers, and Pollo, the team that won Game 1.
Top 10 situation right now. This is where the points really start to add up. But look at this, only 30 builds here, 3 mats left. What can Peterbot and team do? They're going to need a refresh, and Edgy is going to be the one first to fall here now. Peterbot gets the siphon, so he goes into the storm for the loot. The risk was worth it. The team following close behind, and look at how they work as a unit right now. That is exactly what we expect of a team this good. Agers, Pollo, Acorn are doing it once again now, maintaining control of the low ground. Great shots here by Agers. He's working back and forth. Booga's going to fall. Peterbot loses his teammates. It's all up to him and Ritual now.
We've seen this movie before. We know what he can do by himself. Looks to the back. Acorn gets spotted out. Not enough damage for Peterbot to get the elimination. He gets jumped on from above. Quickly scurries to the zone. 7 HP in a dream as he's looking around for any opportunity that he can to get a singular elimination for the siphon, but he finds nothing. Peterbot goes down. Sphinx, Badil, Cooper. A resurgence of a performance here in Game 2. They're looking for the win.
They needed this comeback right now. They needed to get themselves back on the board. Agers, though, is the last man standing. He takes down Yapko. He's looking for his siphon. There it is. The points start to add up. The health is coming back for him. Meanwhile, he turns his high ground attention up top. It's Kanata who's still there. Agers swinging all types of around now. It seems like he's got his bearings back under his feet here. And things are starting to simmer down. There's a lot of fragmented teams alive, though. Anything can still happen right now.
I don't think there's anybody that's a full trio left in this game, and Ager is trying to use that to his advantage, trying to go unnoticed, but Rise is on the other side. Eventually, they'll crash, and it does look like it's going to be Agers to get the elimination. Siphon coming into play just in the nick of time, trying to keep him alive, but the fight comes out. Kanata takes down Cooper. 2v1 situation. Kanata going for one angle, Rapid on the other, and they seal the deal. 12 eliminations, but Kanata in the double digits with 10.
And if there's anyone that needs that little bit of confidence boost, is someone like Kanata, who plays off of the momentum of his mood and wait for him to take that Game 2 victory right there. That's going to really put him in a good spot now, Jacob, for the rest of the day here.
Yeah, you talked about the attitude, the confidence. This guy's got to be feeling good, and that brings it all around to his teammates as well. Bolts and Rapid, even though Bolts dropped down low trying to go for eliminations, he eventually fell. You got to imagine the distraction and the damage that he actually did to the players down below, because we saw nobody was a full trio.
Take a look at the high ground position here. We didn't even really get to tune in with their perspective, but it looked so easy for them as no one contested them from up above, and Kanata's pressure was just too good. Look at him rack up the eliminations here, really leading his team right now and honestly solidifying the victory for the squad. Must feel good to also land the final shot right there. What a big game now for Kanata, Rapid, and Bolts there, Zeke.
Kanata, let's go! Oh my God! What am I watching, dude? What are these games? I cannot believe what just the 2 first games of Major 1 Finals have given us. What's so crazy about this game is we're literally bouncing from trio to trio. And then the moment we get the white shot, we look up and we go, wait a minute, Kanata, Rapid, Bolts, are you guys on height? And they win!
Yeah, they had that tower, like you can see right here, from 8th zone, and I thought, no way are they going to be able to convert this into high ground, and they do that. But then we see Bolts go down, and I go like, well, no way that they're going to be able to hold high ground, and they still do that. Kanata has to be one of the best fraggers from high ground. To get double-digit eliminations from that position is almost unheard of. And to speak on where they were in Game 1, they ended in 21st place. So to jump up so far, to recover, and you know that this team is a very emotional trio, or Kanata is, to see them go from 21st to 1st place, you know that they have to feel good.
Yeah, but what a huge burst of confidence that must be, right? I mean, for Kanata, just as himself personally as a player, obviously for the trio as well. I mean, winning a game, but 10 eliminations, breaking into the double digits already in game number 2, especially after that first game kind of slipped out of their hands. Still, though, even saying that middle of that game right there, Kanata, Rapid, and Bullets looked like they were a little bit lower on the Storm Surge. I'm surprised they were actually able to bring that back and convert that game. But yeah, Kanata put it on a show, and well done to this team, holding the high ground, receiving no types of pressure, just cleaning up the rest of the game.
Dude, let's go. We have to go to a break. When we return, though, don't worry. We'll break that win down and so much more. We'll be right back. Let's go! Welcome back, everyone, to the FNCS. We just got a sneak peek at the standings, and I'm about to lose my mind. First 2 games of NAC have not disappointed. We have seen some of the craziest plays, some high-profile trios all battling it out, all going head-to-head. This is crazy, but that last game, Bolt, Rapid, Kanata get themselves a victory royale. Once again, we see a victory royale coming out with double digits, but look at these standings. Agers, Acorn, Pollo, almost 100 points ahead. Games in second and first, back-to-back, 13 eliminations, 14 eliminations. Kelly, what am I looking at?
I mean, you're looking at what a lot of people expected from them. When we saw Pollo get picked up by Agers and Acorn, they had a great first Div Cup, but then they kind of floundered a little bit during the play-ins. Group stages wasn't exactly what they wanted. And, you know, we actually talked about it at the start of the show, like what what vibes are we going to get from this trio? And they don't need the vibes. They're here to just do business. They know exactly what they're locked in for, and this is what we expected from this trio. They are absolutely stomping the competition from low ground, from high ground, regardless, Vivid. They are running away with it.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned it earlier, but I was like, yeah, their group stage changes, they did not look like they were going to do well in those early and mid games, like at all. They needed to kind of clean that up. And for finals, right now, these games, they have for sure cleaned up those early and mid games. They look like such a healthy team throughout all stages of the game right now, and it is translating very, very well. I mean, a first place with 14 eliminations, second place with 13 eliminations, literally cannot be stopped right now. Almost 100 points out of the competition.
I just look at the elim.
Within the span of 3 weeks, to see
going to be
100 points out of the competition.
I just look at the elim. What's crazy, what I love, is that should say Peterbot, and it doesn't. It says Pollo. So everyone out there who's been like, oh, Pollo doesn't carry, but Peterbot, you're a liar. Check the stats, homie. Look at how crazy this is. We have just seen 2 games. I don't even know. My heart is racing. My little bird heart is racing right now, and I'm going to lose my mind. But there's still a ton of things we wanted to highlight. I mean, even just look at this top 5. Look at these names. I mean, guys, we are fighting here for one of those 2 spots going to the global championships, and it is so apparent.
I mean, honestly, I was really impressed with Muzz, Yapko, and Rise right there. We saw this crazy early rotation all the way to the southeast edge there, just to make sure that they grabbed some tags, just to make sure that they grabbed some eliminations. They were able to take down Braids' trio right there, who was previously in second place. And then they just were able to use that and convert it into such a great low ground. And I kind of like this Blade Oni mask hold that Muzz had right there. It definitely seemed to be, you know, more of a contingency plan, whether that it didn't work out for them or not. But regardless, they were able to just kind of have a great end game there. Rise having to go for a solo run, and that seems to be kind of the repeat story we're seeing, Vivid, is that these solo clutches, it's kind of what's holding up our top 5 right now.
Yeah, super incredible job there. But also, we've got a couple of teams that were kind of playing catch up, right? They had a bad first game like Video, Cooper, and Sinks. They've kind of snuck in their way up to 11th place, but then obviously Kanata, Rapid, and Bolts winning that game. I mean, they had 3 points after that first game, and now they're in 5th place. So that win right there was extremely important for them.
So big. I mean, even Peterbot, right? Once again, you know, what's crazy, we talked about them being this unstoppable trio, but again, we're put in a similar situation in this last game, right? Everyone goes down. It's Peterbot left as a solo. So do we think that these guys are maybe having issues? Like, why does this, why? Obviously, it's just 2 out of 12 games. I don't want to get crazy here, but, you know, it's happened back to back. So what's happening?
I don't want to speak for Cold and Ritual too much, but Peterbot actually historically has been a day 2 player. I think that they definitely lock in once they get their first day 1 done. And that's definitely worked out for him back when 1.5x points for day 2 was a thing. Obviously, this isn't affecting him too much. You know, the fact that they have been put into a solo situation in both games now, and they're sitting in 3rd place is definitely not the worst position to be in.
I mean, I don't think that we've actually seen a good game from them yet so far, right? They haven't, you know, been a trio, a solid trio with, you know, healthy materials and everything ready to go. So hopefully in game number 3, they can kind of switch that around and we can see a healthy end game from that.
Let's find out. I'm getting word. It is that time once again. Right back into the action we go. So casters, take it away.
Yeah, I think you hit it right there. The money on the head right there, because what we've just seen is that's just their worst games, right? This is not even what they're truly capable of just yet. And don't forget, we're just getting started. There's still 4 big games in front of us, Jacob. In day 1, your performance matters now more than ever, right? There is no multiplier for day 2.
Yeah, it's going to be so hard for these teams to catch up. There's not going to be a lot of time to make the adjustments. But Peterbot's playing phenomenally well. 3,600 damage, most damage in the game. But Pollo is playing just a little bit better. He is the elimination leader right now after 2 games. Will that change? Because the battle bus is ready for game 3, Monster. Let's get into it.
Major 1 Finals Game 3 starts right now. very interesting kickoff to the weekend so far, as finals day 1, game 1 and game 2 have definitely kept us on our toes. The story just really starting to take shape now. 70 plus points ahead of the competition. Agers, Acorn, and Poyo find themselves right now. Can they maintain the lead is the question everyone is wondering. However, we are just getting started, right? I really don't think you can count out any of the teams inside the top 5. There's a reason all 5 of those trios were the trios at the top of everyone's list. So I do think we are in for a great competition to come.
Fight that we saw kind of in game 1 a little bit slow. In game 2 you saw ended rather quick, probably depending on those drop spots. This time around over towards Magic Mosses, you see it just a little bit split out. They don't want to kind of put it all to the test because it's exactly what you were talking about. 12 games throughout the weekend, Monster. It's truly a marathon and not a race. And you got to make sure you don't just gas yourselves out and kind of lose sight of what's important. But from one fight to the next, it does look like Cease, Jack, and Blake contested again from groups to this. They figure out a way to win off spawn.
Yeah, I just think this leaderboard is going to look very different by the time the day is over. I'm willing to hedge the bets on it, but let's take a look at what's going on here. We saw a little glimpse of Cease, Jack, and Blake making their way into that end game just before. They're still looking to get their footing. First set of eliminations going to fall right into their point threshold there. Very nice. Meanwhile, Sinetto, Scare, and Veer. Strong game 1 performance, kind of fizzled out come the end game, and then game 2, bit of a struggle after getting contested. But the Whiffy Wharf, not big enough for 2. You can see their loadout looking pretty desperate here right now. I wonder, when are they going to push?
Yeah, there's really not a ton of loot directly in Whiffy. Usually if you get this uncontested, you go towards the north. There's a lighthouse there with more loot. Sometimes a little bit towards the south. But for 2 teams to land at this one drop spot, both of them are going to be, wouldn't necessarily say in shambles because it depends on what you actually get, but they're going to be hurting the longer that fight actually does take on that side of the map. Chimp, Skittles, Victor V, you saw them contested. You saw them kind of spread out in the early game instead of taking their contested fight straight out. And they immediately move over towards Brutal Boxcars. They're just trying to get as much metal as they can. That's one of the few resources towards the north side of the map that they actually lack.
Yeah, always tough to find that metal. Skittles, Chimp, and Victor V right now. Just looking to trade some tags here with teams in the vicinity. Nothing big comes out of it just yet, but they do have an early elimination off kind of picking one of these players off. So they're trying to see if they can set themselves up to potentially collapse now, but no. Instead, they back off. It's the right play, right? Game number 3. Everyone's still looking to kind of situate themselves, build a strong foundation here for day 1. Meanwhile, at the Flooded Frogs, Cold, Ritual, and Peterbot, we all know there is really nothing that can stop this team if you get them into endgame. It's just runaway train scenarios unfold game after game.
Yeah, the accolades for this team continues to kind of stack up. Placed top 3 in over half of their finals games this season. No, it's not just opens, finals, stacked lobbies. We're the best of the best. They're usually claiming that top spot time and time again, and it's because of just the immense skill and the ability to claim these drop spots like Flooded Frogs. They moved over from Brutal Boxcars, but the changes happened to Flooded Frogs. The water actually dissipated, unlocked this vault right here that we're seeing Peterbot loot, which gives you almost guaranteed weapons, guaranteed mobility, something that they're able to use for this early game, while some teams might not actually have a Mask or a Typhoon Blade or a Kinetic Blade.
And can we just give credit to him not even wasting the shield kegs? He's willing to keep it down to the last tag in case they need to double back into the storm, play a little bit further. It's the little things. They really have their entire drop mapped out, and I don't think people give him enough credit for the preparation.
It's incredible. The international trio have the most shotgun damage out of every team, and they're at the top of the leaderboard, so they're fighting for every single inch that they have in this game, and they've done so by traveling north, south, east, west. They're quick to the punch to try to get position over every other team in these early zones.
Sales Encrypted have seemingly jumped into the action here. I don't know who invited them, but Chimp, Skittles, and Victor V has had their drop spot just fully invaded round after round. And you can see it's weighing heavily on their points right now. Wonder where G Money has gone off to at this point.
moving past this position, if anybody kind of positions on top of that actual mountain, it's not going to come without its own risk of possibly just kind of getting tagged up by Surge. But you see the importance of metal, teams willing to converge on that location. Others are having no stress. Others are having all of it. Peterbot, Ritual, and Cold looking to fight another one of these early game scuffles to try to get their Surge to really set themselves up for some of those performances that they've been having so far. And you see that they're kind of pushing each other into one another. Peterbot taking all the walls on that side, trusting his team to stay alive and put the same pressure on the other side.
What I like about this is no two games are the same, right? They've gone a completely different way this time around. Peterbot, though, is going to be the first to fall here to the hands of Fredbot and Nut there on the other side of the wall. Meanwhile, Ritual and Cold seemingly deciding, hey, wait a second, we haven't done enough damage. Let's get out of here. And they actually back off.
Smart decision for them, but for Nut, Fredbot, and Liam, this is going to be one that you kind of know who it is. You took down Peterbot. Do you chase the other two? And we're going to see how Peterbot actually went down, just getting a little bit too aggressive. Nut was not only able to hit the shots that matter, spray him down, and get the siphon because he just had a sliver of HP himself.
Did notice they started to move towards Cold and Ritual's way, but hold that thought. Creo, Zeus, and Tony have moved out of the Brutal. Seems like they've gotten chased by Encrypted Sails here. This team wants a little bit of action. Both sides putting the damage on. It's going to be a fight for height. More tags coming in, though. Other teams starting to look in now. This is not a free 3-on-3 at all.
Yeah, it's going to be a risky fight, no matter the case, especially for a team that's positioned not only on top of the mountain, but down below all the rest of those builds. So teams looking in this direction as they kind of build their way up. That is going to be free and easy Surge. So I do like the decision, not only to disengage, but kind of slow things down. Try to dip a different spot as Death just gets tagged up from all around the lobby. As good a position it is for these Surge bases, you got to watch out because as soon as you peek over, it just makes you susceptible to just beams just like that.
A lot of action happening here. This is what's allowing Death, Encrypted, and Sails to remain inside the top 10. These early Surge bases are definitely important. Meanwhile, Polyo, Acorn, and Agers right now, our game 1 and 2 leaders right now, respectfully placing up at the top. Just doesn't get better to a tournament start than that. And then to think 14 and 13 elimination games. Of all those eliminations, Pollos have picked up 11 through those 2 games, leading by, I'd say, a fair margin across the rest of the competition right now.
You can kind of see that uncontested night shift. They're easily making those rotations in towards the east. They got options to get Surge as well. The Bird contested by 2 teams if they want to look south. Donnie Mason land just above them to the north. If they're feeling risky enough, Clix, Yamzo, Batman, Booga over towards Lost Lake. So you can see how they're progressively getting better in terms of accumulating that Surge game after game. So that way they don't have to worry about it, unlike some of the rest of the teams in this lobby.
Curly, Nox, and Virgo on the move right now down at the Hopeful Heights here. They've got their eyes on a trio next door. Noxy already calling the scout here. They seem like they've had a bit of a struggle out of their drop. We already know they've gotten into some early contested fights here.
I feel like because I think 5 of the 8 contested drops that we're seeing throughout the day, obviously if somebody changes it up, that changes it up, but 5 of them are on the south side of the map, 2 of them directly next to Noxy, Virgo, and Curly. So they're quickly trying to rotate, get as much Surge as possible, and take advantage of those fights. But I think a lot of the lobby is realizing how quick and important it is to kind of rotate, get your Surge, get out of there. So as soon as they held their position on the south side of the map, a lot of those teams that were contested kind of moved on out of there.
It's a good update right here. I wanted to see where Clix, Yamzo, and Batman Booga were positioned this game because we already know that Peterbot had to get rezzed right deep inside the storm. So they could easily be one of these trios that will be next up, right, for Yamzo, Clix, and Batman Booga to target. And given that they're already kind of off their game a bit, right, that could spell disaster for that team right now.
That's actually a really, really good point. because Peterbot goes down. They go deeper into zone. They're going to have to return back to zone and try to get Surge. You got to imagine they might be one of these teams that you see in the mini-map. There's about 6 of them overall. Yamso, Clix, and Batman Booga. They're immediately pushing on over, gain some elevation. And as soon as they see 1 or 2 players around, that's when they're going to try to take their time and try to interrupt one of these fights instead of being one of the ones that started overall.
No, they don't seem to be too happy about that. The zone's already starting to push in. They're looking to cut these teams off, be the first to get to the save zone, and then fish for tags on teams rotating. A little bit of a safer strategy, but not one that's guaranteed to yield damage. Intake Aoxy and Jojo now in a standoff against the young Jack. Cease and Blake right now. Jack making his way towards Pikes here. Has to be careful.
It's just tough. Now they're getting forced into zone. Jack can't even fight back. He has to try to heal. They're quickly on his tail. The cone's barely going to save him, but he's blocked off overall. Great edit by Jack to stay alive. Firing back onto Jojo. Unfortunately enough, the blessings come to an end. He goes down. The siphon coming to work for him, keeping Jojo alive. But you got to give Jack credit for that work.
I'm not gonna lie, that was very, very clever for him to go ahead and edit that player out the box. He almost caught himself a little highlight right there, but now it's all up to Blake, and he gets his off kicked right back to the lobby. Ribox, Jojo, Aoxy, and Intake Pikes now looking very good this game here. Surge secured, eliminations in the bag, and on their way to endgame they go. That's a tough elimination for Cease, Jack, and Blake too, who were in 11th place. Just on the heels of top 10 now, so that's going to be a full reset for them. Aoxy, Jojo, and Fishy were in 16, so up they jump now on their way to top 10.
Yeah, it's just tough. The history of Blake is just not on site.
Look at
16 finals, and he's contested through both of them. As Tram just trying to go through unnoticed. That's such a smart move. Instead of just trying to go for some damage, because you see his teammate is also in the zone with him. He's just trying to play it passively. Let them go on by. Don't worry about us. You didn't see nothing. And that's going to allow them to kind of live to tell the tale, because Ritual, Peterbot, and Cole, they hear the action going down. It looks like they're on the hunt for it overall.
They are literally keying into Chip, Skittles, and Victor V right now. Anything can happen there. Pay attention to the feet. Well, as I say it, Victor V goes down immediately. We'll catch up in a second. Bolts, Kanata, Rapid though. Top 3 on the conversation right now. In the lead here. One of these teams that are going to be surely set up for success now, given that they're going to be securing a medallion here shortly. This is going to be a big, big opportunity for them. Notice, though, we've seen this, happen in the group stages where the medallion goes to Bolts, right? I wonder if that's going to continue to be the story here. It should be. However, talk about a big situation. Let's look at that highlight. Oh, it was a beautiful tag there. And the timing couldn't have been better, because his squad had Void Oni masked out into another fight. GG's.
Yeah, really catch them on the tail end. And that's them just adapting very, very quickly. Because remember, to start the game, Peterbot and them, they were taking a fight, and Peterbot went down, which means they were slower than normal to try to get their surge. So they're really trying to make up for that lost time. Death Encrypted Sales trying to do the same thing. 95 points. They got into the Major 1 finals through their consistency. So they're looking to make that hold true here yet again. They don't have a far rotation to go. It does look like they might try to take advantage of this shrine. If they do have one of those water sprites, 2, 1 charge, they can use this to try to recharge it, kind of gain some heals that they can take him with them into the end game.
Meanwhile, Minished, Braids, and Visuals, though, trying to make up for lost time here. They're keying another team. It's Mason. Mason caught off guard. Collapsed on. Caught while fishing. There's so much loot here for them to pick up as well. And this is going to be a major, major come up for any team that walks away from this. Meanwhile, Ritual, Peterbot, Cole, just thinking that this is also an opportunity for them as well. They can't mess around with the Storm. They don't have the luxury to do so. They've been in there way too long now. And it makes you wonder, have they done enough damage, right? They've obviously been in these skirmishes, but with Peterbot being down, they're probably feeling like the pressure's on.
I know it's not a big deal, but did you just see what Peterbot just did? So what was that? Ritual threw down the water sprite to get heals, and typically there's like a 20-second recharge on it. Peterbot just picked it back up, dropped it again. That's 60 straight HP for them, and now they're up into tip-top shape. 200 shield and HP instant.